What was the worst why the F did I say that moment? Back in 7th grade a teacher called on me to answer a question. I guess I was a little sick at the time because I needed to clear my throat, yet decided against it because people might think I'm gross or something. As you can probably guess, that didn't work out well and I sounded like a chronic smoker. Then finally, after trying my hardest to nonchalantly clear my throat, I announced to the class, sorry, I have a speech defect. I do not. I'm disabled. Interview for an administrator in a doctor's surgery. Seems to be going well. Getting through the majority of questions, no issues. No real concerns about my experience or work history, and they seem pleased with what I'm saying. Just 3 or 4 more questions and the interview would be over. Interviewer: this job can be very stressful. What do you do to release stress? Me: I've always felt less stress after I've had fricked. The interviewer and his assistant completely lost it and burst into laughter. The interview effectively ended there and then, and no, I did not get the job. Should have followed it up, once they were mostly composed, with jokes work as well. Thanks guys, I'll never figure out why I get gilded. Went to drinks with friends. 2 of them had been seeing each other for a while. Some background: this couple were always fighting and the guy had been trying to break up with the girl for months, but she always cried and guilt tripped him, so he never did it. Anyway, we're at drinks, I get sat next to said girl, yay, and she then proceeds to moan at me for the rest of night about him. I'm just there to catch up with friends and she's really bumming me out. I try and comfort, offer advice, but she was having none of it. Towards the end of the night she has a dig at my girlfriend for some reason. I phase out and say from nowhere, at least the love isn't dead in my relationship. Silence. The whole table was looking at me. I had pretty much shouted this to everyone. I wanted the world to swallow me whole. Later my other friends actually thanked me for saying what they were all thinking. This couple broke up a couple of weeks later. Honestly, yeah, I agree with your other friends. Good on you. When I was about 8 years old, our school had a postbox for Christmas cards, and about once a week teachers would come round and give the children their respective cards. One of my classmates, Ryan, who for some reason always disliked me and picked on me, occasionally got a card and opened it to see the words "You will die." He laughed it off, but the next day my teacher attempted to launch a full-scale forensic investigation and incorrectly concluded that the handwriting was mine, and I had the motive. I denied it repeatedly because I had absolutely nothing to do with it, but my teacher just wouldn't let it go. He called class meetings to see if anybody knew who sent the card. No success. He pulled what few friends I had into a private room to see if he could get them to rat me out. No success. He kept trying to surprise a confession out of me by occasionally mentioning the card recipient's name in general conversation and gauging the reaction on my confused infant face. No success. Eventually, about a week later, my teacher dropped the bomb. My class would not be allowed to go to the school Christmas party disco thing unless the culprit is found. Being that I didn't have many friends and I was fairly socially awkward, I decided it wouldn't be a big deal if I missed that party, and that I should take one for the team. Here's the why the frick did I say that moment. I told my teacher that it was me who sent the card so that my class could have fun, and to this day I regret it. I was sent to the head teacher's office, which, when you're 8 years old and terrified of unknown consequences, you arrive at in tears, where I was shouted at for about half an hour. I was told how despicable I was, what a disgusting thing it was to do, and he even said that it almost became a police matter because it was a death threat. I vividly remember the head teacher looking really disappointed at one point and him saying to himself, "And this is supposed to be the season of goodwill to all men." And I just felt awful. I was made to apologize to the classmate in question, as well as write a 3-page letter of apology. Then the worst part, my school called my parents and they were horrified at what I'd supposedly done. It was an incredibly negative formative experience from my childhood, and I think about it regularly. Because of my stupidity and my teacher's actions, I was ostracized by my peers for a long time, which made my early years quite difficult. Even 19 years later, every so often I think about going back to my school and speaking to my old teacher and head teacher to clarify the situation, explain that it wasn't me, set the record straight. Last time I looked at the school website though, both have left, so I guess it's something I'll have to live with. At least you learned a valuable lesson. Never stop defending your innocence. Back in high school, my sorta girlfriend, we'd been dating for maybe 2 months, invited me over to her house to hang out at their pool and with her family. I went. The dad was very intensely Baptist of the common sort in the South, and, on my first date with his daughter, had asked me to explain why I deserved to go to heaven. But I sort of got along with them, because I'm generally good at getting along with most of anyone, so I was having a good time that day. Girlfriend, her parents, and I started playing some board game together. There was some friendly banter and smack talk going on. GF and I had watched Anchorman a few days earlier, I'm pretty sure, so I started repeating some of the quotes from what movie back at her for the banter. I knew it was a little risky since the parents didn't let anyone watch anything that wasn't A Walk to Remember or Seventh Heaven. But whatever, there was enough background noise where I got away with it a few times. But then came one of those moments where all background and conversation noise ceases, which coincided with my telling my girlfriend to go back to your home on W Island. I muttered a thing or two about being from a movie we watched, which barely helped anything since they definitely saw me as corrupting their good Christian girl from there on out. One day, when I was young, probably 10-11 years old, my aunt and uncle came to our house to visit us. My mom, stepdad, brother, aunt, uncle, and myself were all looking through old family pictures. We came across this picture of me, age 2, and my brother, age 7, playing in the sprinkler. So everyone starts laughing at the picture, mostly because I'm naked kid jumping through the sprinkler. My brother laughs and goes, "I'm going to take this to school and show everyone," meaning that he was going to take it to school and embarrass me in front of my friends. My brain decides to go full crap mode and I blurt out, "Why? Does it give you a boner?" Mainly, I think I was trying to embarrass him and it was the only thing my crap kid brain came up with at the time. Everyone stops laughing and just stares at me. I realize the impact of what I said and my stepdad just goes, "What the frick is wrong with you? Go to your room." I get up from the chair and run upstairs, wishing I could just disappear forever. I sometimes think about it and just have to ask, why? Why you do this to me, brain? I think someone asked. I'm a guy, which makes it double awkward. I think 10-11-year-old me thought that having a boner was embarrassing, so I really nailed him with that zinger. The collective horrified looks from everyone in utter silence was probably the worst part about it. However, the responses I've received from everyone have been hilarious and have made me feel quite a bit better about it. Mayo, that's pretty funny for an 11-year-old. I'm sure it's the reaction you got from the adults that makes it so cringy for you. You were before your time. High school graduation. Post-ceremony. Everyone is hugging and taking pictures. I see a friend of mine. Her name was Danielle, we called her Danny. Danny was a large girl. My mother would call her heavy set. She approaches me. I open my arms for a hug. "Hey, Big Danny," I say, with great affection. My soul is immediately transported to a tiny black room with one chair that I'm curled up on. "Oh no," my soul says. "Big," says Danny, and I'm thrown back into reality where I panic and mumble something about her personality being big or some other bulls. She knew what I meant. Somebody murder me with the heavy applicants. When we were in elementary school, we had a presentation when we brought down 3 kids to dance, and the best dancer got tickets to an amusement park. Well, I was a fat awkward kid and this guy, we'll call him Steve, kicked our butt and won the tickets. Fast forward a few years and Steve turned into a total junkie. He ended up dying falling off a bridge he was climbing while high as a kite. There was a Facebook page where they were talking about him, and someone brought up the dance contest. Oh, I remember when Steve did the dance contest and kicked Red's butt, to which I replied he won the battle, but I won the war, where I ate too soon, and it did not go over well. At my friend's wedding, which I was standing up in, I walk into the bathroom, which has 1 or 2 more men in it than there are stalls and urinals for. My friend says I guess I'll use the handicap stall since it was unoccupied, but apparently he wasn't sure that he should use it. Without missing a beat, I said that's okay, it works for mentally handicapped people too. It was at that point that I realized that it wasn't my friend who said it, just some guy I didn't know who was in his 40s or 50s. I was 24 at the time. Silence. I quickly go into the other stall which someone had just exited, pee as fast as possible, and left without washing my hands so I would get out of there before the other guy left the handicap stall. This was about 12 years ago. I was chatting with two female colleagues during lunch break. When the break was almost over, I wanted to ask, shall we go back to work? Instead, for some reason I asked, shall we go to bed? My face instantly turned red. It was pretty awkward, but we all ended up laughing about it. We've been married for about 20 years now. I was 15 and in the early stages of my emo phase, so I wore skinny jeans. Except they didn't make skinny jeans for men at the time, so I wore girl jeans, just as many of my male, skinny jean-bearing friends did. Now for the actual story. I went to a birthday party at a local restaurant, but I didn't normally speak to anyone there except the birthday girl and another one of my buddies. This, alongside my social awkwardness, made it difficult to think of a conversation topic. The girl across from me got up to go to the bathroom and I noticed that she had a familiar pattern on her jeans and thought it was the key to not sitting there awkwardly. As she comes back and sits down, I immediately said, "So, I noticed we're wearing the same jeans." I still think about it 8 years later. It's not the fact that I was wearing girl jeans, as much the fact that it was the first sentence this girl heard from me. The way I read this made me laugh. For some reason I assumed you wanted to share a random fact about yourself, then tell a story about jeans. X. Wife's stepmother calls to tell us that wife's father suffered a heart attack while shoveling snow and died. Me. You're kidding me? Her. Solid 10-second silence. No, I'm not kidding you. I have never responded well to random uncomfortable news. Once when I was in college I was getting a haircut and asked how the stylist's day was going. She said her day was going well but her dog died the night before. Without thinking I said, think of all the money you'll save on dog food. Instant regret. It's one of those things that pops into my head randomly as I try to sleep at night. Then you had to awkwardly go through the rest of the haircut. Was at a water park with some friends and I ran into an old work buddy who was there with her friends, one of which I also worked with but not for as long, and was real cute and wanted to give me a hug. Problem was I didn't recognize her at first because she was in a bikini and we didn't really talk outside of work and I was real nervous. So I backed off and said, well, I don't really know you that well. No thanks, I'm driving. Co-worker asks why I don't have kids or a woman in my life. Why? You offering? I respond. Still haven't lived that down from my physically aggressive female coworker. My mom's mom died when she was young, like 7 or 8. We were at dinner when I was about 14. Typical teenager me was arguing with my mom about something and she said, well, I'm the mom, that's why. I followed up with, how do you know that you're being a mom the right way? Yours died so you don't even know what a good mom is like. My mom promptly started crying and walked out of the restaurant, leaving my dad burning holes through my head with his eyes. I apologized profusely many times but she never forgave me. I would not like to imagine the next couple of hours for you. Not me but a friend. We were at our mutual friend's birthday party when we were about 6 or 7. The mother brings out a bowl of strawberry punch. To be fair, it really didn't look super appealing but my friend couldn't keep her mouth shut and said something along the lines of, whoa, that looks like a bowl of diarrhea. And the mother got super upset and offended and I could see immediately the look on my friend's face that they knew they fricked up. If you are offended by a 7-year-old, your life is going to be a pretty offense-filled experience. My ex said at the dinner table I had a slight webbing on my toe. How do you get that? In front of her entire family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. I instinctively said inbreeding. Forks dropped, and they all just stared at me. I didn't know what to do or where to look. I just wanted to fricking die. I thought that would have been funny as heck. It's a good response. I went to a funeral last year for my co-worker's father who had just passed away. I was standing there with a couple other people when someone accidentally bumped into me and quickly apologized. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, what are you trying to kill me? Painfully awkward silence. Had my first kiss with a girl I'd had a crush on for years. I wasn't expecting the kiss, and there was more moisture than I expected. First words out of my mouth were, oh my god, you're so wet. I remember one that was way worse. I went to go visit a friend with my sister who was working on a college campus. She took us around and I don't know what led to it, but she told us how she got raped by a kid in middle school. Told us about the aftermath and how she's totally fine now. It came time for my sister and I to leave. We were saying our goodbyes and as we were walking away I said, "Don't get debauched." I to this day want to punch myself in the face repeatedly and I have no freaking clue why I said that. At a family Christmas gathering my daughter received a Kailau book. The discussion became the usual adults hate Kailau and why is he so winny. I start going off about how I think Kailau has cancer. He's dying. He is a ghost etc and I wouldn't drop it. Everyone looking at me weird. You're so two of the three grandparents sitting there both have cancer at different stages and likely at least one won't make it to next Christmas. But here's me cancer. 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 That freaking bald pisshead has ruined another family gathering. At a funeral, got up to the coffin, asked the widow of the deceased, "How are you, goddamn it? You know exactly how the frick she is. Why would you ask such a thing?" Went to a funeral of a friend of mine's dad who I had never met. My friend wasn't crying so I asked him, "Why aren't you crying? Did you not love your dad?" When I suddenly realized that my brain filter had grossly failed me, he replied that he was all out of tears as 3 days had passed since his death. I felt like an idiot and left within just a few minutes. Ever since that I worry about what to say at funerals. My first year in high school, there was a girl in one of my classes who just stopped showing up for about 2 weeks straight. Before class started one day, our teacher began to talk about this girl's unannounced absence. Me, being the super cool class clown, shouted, "Ha ha 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 ha, I think she died." Ha ha ha. My teacher responded, "No, Adolf. Her mother passed away." Cue silence. The Adolf part makes this so much better. About to lose my virginity, she says, "Why don't you take those boxers off?" I replied, "But then I'll be naked." So dumb. Still got it in despite the embarrassment. I'm a very absent-minded person and was at a grocery store. I was walking around daydreaming waiting for my girlfriend at the time to get some groceries when a Jamaican woman said to her son, "Where dem bananas?" in a thick Jamaican accent. Stupid me, still absent-minded, answered her out of reaction while I was staring at the floor walking past her and said, "I not know where dem bananas at," in a thick Jamaican accent also. I'm an Asian and she looked at me and was ready to smack me. I continued to walk while staring at the floor out of pure embarrassment. Once I was having an argument with my partner. She had a problem with me correcting her. She said, "I know I'm not the brightest tool in the shed, but there's no need to always correct me." I couldn't stop myself. All I said was sharpest. 2 was asked to come in for an interview, but also to create a presentation on how one would upload a video to YouTube. As for the job I was interviewing for, I would be explaining social media platforms to political organizations. Just a baseline 15 minutes presentation. Cool, made my presentation on with laid out screenshots in a PowerPoint. I go in and the head of the startup decided she wanted to be part of the interview. I pull it up my PowerPoint and she goes, "Oh, I hate PowerPoints. Just show me how you would demonstrate it to a client." Well, I wasn't prepared for a demo. I got flustered and rooted around my computer for a random video and had to upload it to my personal YouTube account, which mind you was filled with recommended Vine compilations and pimple popping videos. The other interviewer felt bad because she told me to prepare the wrong thing, so as I'm taking 10 minutes setting up, she starts asking me questions about the platform. So what kind of things can you not upload to YouTube? By this point in the train wreck of an interview, I was so distracted and off my game. I said it. "Well, YouTube has lots of video standards, so you can't post vulgar things. Like, you shouldn't post P to YouTube." I said to the startup founder, word for word, not to upload P to YouTube. And then I had to spend another 30 minutes giving a poor demonstration. They called 2 hours later to let me know it was a pleasure to interview me and they would be going with a different candidate. TLDR, was in a job interview. Got overwhelmed and accidentally told the startup head to not upload P to YouTube. When they once announced our librarian, horrible lady, had passed away over the PA, my brain faded and I accidentally said, "Looks like she finally got our library to be quiet. RIP. If I ever die, I hope somebody says something just as funny to mark the occasion." I was in a religious education class at the age of 15 and my teacher was talking about how to make people feel good and happy emotionally, but I wasn't listening. So all I heard was, "Where can you touch someone to make them feel good?" Without even thinking, I immediately blurred out G-spot. The whole class burst into laughter and my teacher's face went bright red and he sent me to the principal's office. Immediately blurred out G-spot, so that's why I can never find it. My friends and I were leaving a concert. The parking lot was jam-packed and there were a lot of drunk people roaming around. There was this one SUV with a bunch frat bros hanging out of it screaming at folks. And this girl scooted her car in front of theirs and one of them starts yelling, "Hey S frick you, S," and I meant to yell out my window, "I bet you feel so much more secure about the size of your dong," but what I actually yelled was, "I bet you got a big dong." He stopped yelling immediately, and then after a long pause yelled, "I do." The most embarrassing part was all of my friends were like, "Why?" Was drinking with my mom. No, scrap that, we were wasted. Her and my dad had just gotten a divorce and I thought I'd lift her now single spirits by saying, "If you weren't my mom I'd do ya." I can't explain why. I remember thinking before I said it that it would be a funny dark humor thing to say, but instantly and have forever regretted it. Found the cringiest post. Back in college I was hanging out in my apartment with my roommate and a couple of girls came over. 2 sisters. We knew one of the sisters, but the other had been away doing a study abroad, so we were meeting her for the first time. My roommate introduced himself to this girl as, "I love you." I've never cringed so hard for someone else in my life. Dude should have run with all night by clarifying that "I love you" was actually his name. I was in an interview and the CEO asked me, "So tell me a bit about your guilty pleasures. You drink? You smoke?" I told him I enjoy a good drink and I am definitely pro marijuana. He then said I meant cigars. A month before my wedding, I was talking to my future mother-in-law, who I'd never been close to. She's fine and all, just a bit timid and I'm not. In an effort to make everyone laugh and lighten the mood, I retold a joke I had recently heard about the role of the groom's mother at a wedding. Her job is to dress in beige and keep her mouth shut. 3 seconds after I said it, I knew it was a mistake. Tried to save it with some lame comment about how I didn't actually believe that. That was 16 years ago. While I can't be sure that exact moment affected our relationship, I can tell you she and I have never gotten any closer. My coworker told me that one of her friends committed suicide while 7 or 8 months pregnant. My response: it was more of murder-suicide. It was one of those times when you think you said something in your head, but you actually said it out loud. First day of my second year high school, grade 8 for you Americans. Everyone was forced to introduce themselves in front of the class. There was this girl, pretty, BTW, who was acting all shy and all in the class. She mentioned she can sing, so of course everyone made her sing. When she was resisting, I decided it was the best time to quote a movie. Do it in a Senator Palpatine voice, loudly, I must say. The class went silent and the girl looked at me like I'm retarded. I probably am. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.